Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to Fuel Your Legacy, and today I'm excited. We had a great pre-conversation meeting these people who have been able to excel in different areas of their life and maybe things that you didn't think were even a business. You find out they are a business. It's crazy how many niche businesses there are. But more importantly, we're recording this as we go through the coronavirus shutdowns, maybe thinking about opening up in certain states. And how crucial is it for you to have a business that's online, not a brick and mortar, that doesn't have to be shut down, that you can do from your home. So that's what you're going to hear about today. I'm super, super pumped to bring this to you because I think it's needed more than now than ever at any other point in time. So his name is Mr. Chris Miles, and he is a full-time entrepreneur specialist, and this includes being a pro blogger and YouTuber. He made over 6 figures his first year online. Like, if you've been just like grinding your wheels, waiting for the promotion, all that crap, waiting to make six figures, you could do it in less than a year online. I promise you can do this. Chris is not the only one who's done this. So I'm excited to hear his story, share his story with you. And hopefully you're taking notes so you can go duplicate what he's done, and he'll share a little bit more about how he can help you duplicate that if you're interested. But yeah, take it away, Chris. Let us know kind of your history as far back as you can get into, as far as why you ended up and how you ended up where you are today.
Hey Sam, pleasure to be here, man. So yeah, I began. I used to work a regular 9-to-5 job, just like anybody else, and I hated it. I've always been kind of a serial entrepreneur. I've started things on the side, and then eventually got into something else. And then sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. I remember times where I've invested money into buying. I remember when the iPhone first came out, I bought a whole bunch of them from this Chinese retailer, and then when I got them, they weren't really iPhones, and I tried to sell it, and it didn't necessarily work out. I ended up losing money on that, but it was just, I did learn a lot from that. It was just the risk taking, kind of being able to put something out there and literally just kind of see what happens, right? So time goes on. I started a couple other businesses. I used to DJ on the side for weddings and anniversary parties and things of that nature, and it made money, but not necessarily any type of life-changing money. So I got to the point where I got married and I was carrying a ton of debt, some really bad debt. So I needed to find a way to really make that money up. So around 2015, I started trying to build blogs online, build websites, use what's called affiliate marketing, where you can like refer people to certain products or services, and then you would get a commission based on the sale. I tried to do it the wrong way, and I ended up kind of tanking my site with Google, and Google ended up just saying, just completely taking my website out of the index. So he couldn't even find it anymore because I used some practices that I shouldn't have. But I was brand new. I had no idea what I was doing, and I was just throwing something out there. So fast forward a couple of years, and me and my wife found out that we were pregnant, and she wanted to quit her job. So she wanted to quit her job. Basically, we were going to be giving up, $40,000-$50,000 income right there, and it was kind of a scary time because I didn't think we could afford it. To be honest, we couldn't afford it at the time, and but it was pretty, like, she kind of gave me, I'm not gonna say an ultimatum, but she told me, you need to figure this out. I'm staying home with my kid. And I was like, okay, well, here we go. So I started doubling down on some of the things that I had previously done with the blogging. And I actually followed the training in which I had purchased and did it step by step. And I was like, it's either going to work or it's not. And I put it together. And then all of a sudden, after, 3 to about maybe 8 weeks, I made my first sale. I made like $23.50. So then from there, it told me that, wait, I can create something literally from nothing, from scratch, and then turn it into a way to earn $23. What's to stop me from doing that 1,000 times? What's stop me doing that 1,000,000 times? So I kind of doubled down, and it really just started to skyrocket after that. As a result, I started also with YouTube. YouTube kind of exponentially helped my growth as well, because YouTube as a platform in terms of getting people and in your reach to expand is just outstanding even right now. And I got a hold of a couple of offers that were allowing me to make a pretty good income per sale. And as the traffic grew, and as the affiliate income grew, and as the ad revenue grew, I kind of got into this little process where I could start creating small niche sites, or sites that are really kind of focused on one particular subject, like golf, for example, or essential oils, or whatever it is that you happen to be interested in. Create those, build them up to a certain amount, and then you could turn around and sell those websites to like a brokerage, and then they would find some people who want to buy your website as an investment for them. They pay pretty well. For example, if you were to build a site up to $1,000 a month, you could turn around and sell it at what's called a 25 or 30 times factor, meaning you can sell a site that makes $1,000 a month and sell it for anywhere from 25 to $30,000. So as you can see, just working on something for 8 or 9 months, especially when you know what you're doing, build it up to $1,000 and then turn around and sell it. Why not repeat that process over and over and over again? And it's all because of uh, uh, my son. Him, with him popping up, my wife wanted to quit her job. I had no other options. I was in a ton of debt. I needed to find something, and I found something. Was able to pay off all of my debt, basically, except for the house. I kept that. I just refinanced it. There was no point in paying off something that was at 3% anyway. So that's kind of how I got into it, and the rest is history. Now I'm in the process of showing other people how to repeat that same process.
I love it. This is so cool. I'm gonna highlight some things that I love about your story, and then I've got some questions for you because I'm curious. And if you ever want to be able to talk to some
Sure.
experts without having to pay them for, um, well, let's just have this conversation. No, this is I'm gonna make this a good teaching moment, because part of it is I'm not paying Chris for being on my show, right? But what's he getting out of this? What's the benefit for him to be on this show? Because just because I'm not financially adding value, I'm not giving him monetary value, I'm still adding value. It's not like I'm using him and he's getting no value out of this. He's getting exposure. He's getting practice in sharing his message on an online forum. He's getting so much stuff out of this exchange. So money doesn't necessarily need to be transferred. And the reason that's important is you also, because this is going to be a question that comes up here in a second. Just keep that in mind. I'll loop back to that. But I'm curious, when do you feel like you did your first, when you first started your, I guess, what was the first business you started as far as a serial entrepreneur?
It probably would have to be when I was like maybe second or third grade. We were doing chocolate. You had to sell chocolate bars or whatever. And I mean, I don't know how ethical it is, but I had to turn around, and they would sell you the bars. They would give them to you, and I think it was maybe $2 a bar, $3 a bar, something like that. So I would literally go around my neighborhood, knocking on doors and selling them. But I had this little wicked idea that I'm going to sell them for $5 each, and and so anyway, instead of just taking, so I was able to kind of keep my cut, pay for the box, and still have some money left over. I don't know, I don't even remember them saying that we couldn't do that, but maybe they didn't realize that a little second grader could figure that out so quickly. But I was able to sell them for profit, and it actually worked out pretty well because I would tell people what the chocolate was for, and it really was, a part of it was to go toward the school to help us out. So by doing that, people were like, "Oh, really? It's only like $5? That's not too bad." A little cute kid at your front door. I guess you can kind of consider that to be my first, actual business,
Well,
where I was doing chocolate arbitrage, for the most part, and it was working out.
I love it. No, I think I did not know that story, but it highlights a consistent theme throughout Chris's life that I do want to highlight. And that's why I want to know what that was. Every time he did it, he was willing to take a risk. He was willing to do something. My mom always taught me, for better or worse, right? And she taught me it's easier to get forgiveness than permission. And although I was verbally taught that, it took me a long time to really internalize that. Probably up until like the last year or two, I was like the perfectionist who wouldn't try anything unless all my I's were dotted, my T's were crossed. I didn't want to get in trouble with certain licensing aspects of what I do on the side from this podcast. Then I didn't want to do anything to lose those licenses. So I stayed like way, way inside the white zone, never got to the gray area because I just didn't even want to get close to getting reprimanded. And it took me a while to get past that and realize there's so much success out in the gray area. In fact, the West, they used to call it the Wild West. The Wild West is no longer a location necessarily, but a mindset. And it's those people who are pushing the boundaries that are excelling in business. Elon Musk pushing the boundaries, sending cars into space, trying to build that. Naveen Jain pushing the boundaries in health sciences. I mean, there's all these things these are people who they're pushing boundaries and they're billionaires because they're pushed the boundaries. It's not even Amazon, Jeff Bezos, Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
These people, they took an idea that was totally unaccepted. Nobody was interested in it, and they created multi-billion, if not trillion-dollar companies out of it. And the question is for you, what really is your gray area? What are you staying out of the gray area for, and what would happen if you entered the gray area? And Chris is a great example of somebody who pushed the gray area there. Then he, this is funny, but when he got on Google, he said, well, they took down his site because he did some things that I don't know what those things were. I'm curious. What are you not allowed to do on Google that they'll take your site down?
Well, as you know, Google is the biggest search engine on the planet. Like you really think about that. I remember like the last stat that I saw. There's around 8 or so billion people on the planet. 4 billion of them have access to Google. That's a lot of people who are using it, and Google's going to always be up there because the more people use it, the smarter Google gets. And no offense to Yahoo or Bing or any of these other places, they're not anywhere close to what Google's going to be, and chances are no one will, at least not in the foreseeable future. The next biggest competitor is YouTube, and Google owns them also. So you have to kind of look at it that way. So sometimes because they're so big, you kind of have to play by Google's rules. If they want you to not be spammy with linking, meaning not putting so many links on your page to where somebody lands on it, they're not getting any value for why they clicked on it in the first place, right? So, for example, if you were looking for how to make a cup of coffee and you Googled it and you landed on my page, and my page is just like, you can make a cup of coffee by heating up some water and putting coffee in it. Now go buy my whatever, just so I can get a commission. That's not going to be a good user experience for that person. It's not going to be a good user experience for you. So then as a result, you may not use Google next time because Google couldn't give you a good experience. So everything that Google is doing is to try to up the customer experience so that when they use the system and it gives them their answer, the next time they have a question, they're going to come back to Google. So I say all of that, it's kind of the long way around, but I wanted to set up something. The reason that Google does those kinds of things is because they don't want basically crappy results for decent questions. I didn't necessarily have crappy results, but what I was doing was trying to game the system at the time. And granted, the reason I was doing it was because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. But I actually went to one of these, what it was called, like one of these gig websites where I paid someone to send 100,000 people to my site, over the weekend, basically, which is totally goes against Google's terms of service. So, but I didn't know it at the time. I didn't even know what terms of service were for Google at the time. So anyway, a whole bunch of, I was able to hire the guy. He sent all of that traffic to my website. And lo and behold, it was a whole bunch of what's called fake bot traffic. It wasn't even real people. It was just something that would show up in your analytics. So I didn't make any money from it. I didn't get any sales from it because it wasn't a real person coming to the site anyway. But Google saw it. They saw where the traffic was coming from. They saw that it was coming from some really spammy, just terrible sites that Google wished they could get rid of in the first place. And when they saw that my site was now linking to those sites, they just completely de-indexed my website. Meaning, even if you were to go to Google and Google the name of my website, it would not pop up because Google did not want people going to my website because of the atmosphere I was creating, because it was going to eventually lead their potential, customers to, it was going to lead their potential customers to somewhere they didn't want to go. And Google did not want that to happen. So by doing that, it was a great learning experience, I should probably say, because I realized what Google likes, what Google doesn't want. And that's kind of the story on that. So for the most part, if you want to do well on Google, and I teach this to when I consult, I teach this to my students, is be as helpful as possible. You need to actually be so helpful when you're writing your articles. Be so helpful even if you're creating your YouTube videos, even with your podcast. You need to lead with value first. The more value that you bring, the more people you're going to bring in. That's called attraction marketing. You do that, and it's eventually going to pay off for you on the back end. It's going to be slow at the start, but it will pay off in the long run.
Yeah, love it. And I think that, again, I want to talk about this stuff as it applies to just everyday life, because in my mind, my life is a business. I try and run my life like a business because it keeps everything consistent. But if Google's doing it, Google has teams and teams and teams of people from all over the world studying human psychology. Okay, they know how you operate better than you know how you operate. They know what you're going to do 4 and 5 steps ahead of you because of statistical evidence of if you search for one thing, they know that in the long run you're actually looking for something else, which we're going to talk about here in a second as well. But what's important is, if that's what they're doing, how are you applying those same principles to your life, to your mind? How are you curating the content that you consume? How are you curating the people in your lives? How are you curating the TV that you watch, right? How are you saying, look, that doesn't lead to something of value. That doesn't lead to fulfillment in my life. Cut it out. Get rid of it. Blacklist it. Defund it. Whatever you have to do. Put yourself in a position where Google is. Google's in a position of they've created a site, they've created an OS, an operating system, and they only let what they want on there to be on their operating system. They only let channels or pathways to be created if they say it can be. You have an operating system in your mind, and you are absolutely in control of your mind. I promise you, no matter what anybody else says, even hypnotists, you are in control of your mind. Okay? The blessing of that is if you choose to control it, you can make sure that it only goes where you want it to, where you only are getting good information, you're only getting positivity. And that is crucial, especially in the world we live in today with how much information is out there. Google's doing their best to curate the information. But the worst part about that, it's also the best part, but it's the worst part, they're going to curate based on what they think is necessary for you to see. Now, if you think that your belief systems are at odds with the person who's creating the list of what's allowed to be seen, then that's unfortunate, because they are now shaping your mind. They're shaping what you believe about the world because they're only allowing you to see what they want you to see. Okay, so there's a positive and negative to it. The positive is learn from what they're doing and apply that principle to your life. Apply that principle to your family. Apply that principle to your relationship with your spouse, with your children, and intentionally create the operating system, the words you say to yourself, how you think, how you feel. And it's all electronic. Whether you want, we are nothing more than atoms with a positive and negative neutron spinning at different vibrations, no different than the internet. Okay, everything is electronic. It doesn't, like, when you get down to that granular level, we all operate the same. You have the choice to take a certain level of control over your life, and my invitation is to do that. If you're curious of how to do that, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Chris. Chris is going to explain it from a technology perspective, which is awesome. I'm going to explain it from a neuropsychology perspective. It doesn't matter because the content is the same. It's just a different narrative of how we're explaining and imagery of how we're explaining the content. But the practice, the natural law principles, identical. So one thing that's important here is he was willing to fail. He was willing to just do stuff and get in trouble, get defunded, whatever. He wasn't intentionally trying to break the rules. He just was willing to go fail forward. But eventually he did get coaching. And that's another thing that people are like, oh, well, why do I have to pay for this information? It's all free on YouTube. Look, probably it is all free on YouTube. It probably is all free on blogs. having a coach, having you accountable, even if it's a done for you system where you pay for it and there's nobody really holding you accountable, the fact that you paid for it, you're more likely to hold yourself accountable. So Chris, he doesn't need your money, but guess what? If you don't pay him for coaching, you probably won't do it. Like that's just, and that's the way humans work. We just have to deal with that. So Chris, talk about that a little bit. What was your coaching experience? And I loved what you said. If I can make a little bit of money here, obviously I can make a lot of bit of money, but what was your coaching experience?
So, first of all, I totally agree with what you're talking about here. I mean, I'm just right there on you. The processes are the same. It's just the way in which we go about it could be different, right? The processes essentially are the same, and we are so much consumers of content and not enough of being creators. And as we become creators, then people will consume our content, and they'll end up seeing us as authorities. And that's kind of what I like to show people how to do, is to become an authority within your particular niche. And when it comes to paying, you know, uh, I hate to say it, but it's true. Human nature, people who pay do pay attention, and you do have to be careful with that, because you're not just trying to charge people thousands and thousands of dollars for no reason. You want to be able to back it up with the correct value. And when I was just getting into trying to figure out how to do this whole online business thing, I didn't do it right the first time. I went the YouTube route, I went the blog route, and there's no guarantee when you go online and look for these particular trainings that you're going to know that what you're learning is relevant for what's going on right now. There's no guarantee that what I'm reading isn't outdated by 2 years. And if I try to do it now, I'm going to end up, like we were saying, getting my site delisted or something of that nature. So I had to come to that realization the hard way by spending a ton of time and wasting a lot of resources trying to figure it out myself. So I stumbled across a particular training. I didn't trust it at first, and I went ahead and tried it anyway, because they did give me like a free trial just to see what it looked like. And then when I realized that, oh, this is legit, this is legitimate, let me actually give it a real try, then I invested further. I invested further money and further time, and things started happening. I was getting the latest training now. I was getting the latest of what's working today, not what's working 3 months ago. And doing that kind of thing, that gave me that changed everything in terms of my thinking, because I realized then that time is your most valuable asset. Had I figured out those types of that doing this was wrong and doing that was wrong, and wasting, like I told you, I started in 2015. I didn't start really taking it seriously to 2017. I wasted 2 years. If I had done everything right from the beginning, bit the bullet, and just bought the training to begin with, I would be 2 years along further than where I am right now. And I can just imagine, where my life would be, where my family's life would be, my, everything. And I just kicked myself. One of my favorite sayings is, do something now that your future self will thank you for. Had I understood that particular aspect 2 years earlier, then I would have, willingly gave up, a lot more than what I did spend, just to be able to be told what to do and when to do it. So the value of training, the value of mentorship, it is pricey depending on where you go and who you figure it out with. But what you end up saving in time is invaluable.
I completely agree. I've spent, I don't even know how much money over the last few years investing in myself and investing in adequate coaching. And every time I've made an investment, my income has increased by thousands of dollars a month, simply because I was getting that education. And so many people think, well, that's a lot. I mean, I've spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on education. And they're thinking, man, that's a lot. You spent $10,000 for a coach. Like, yeah, that coach, I gave him 10 grand, right? And he helped me increase my income by $3,000 a month. Over a year, I'm going to make an extra $36,000 a year, and I only paid him 10 grand for it. Guess what? That $36,000, it's not going away. That's going to continue to pay off. So
it's a bargain.
In 10 years from now, you're telling me I paid $10,000 for a $360,000 increase in my income over the next 10 years, and you're going to complain about that? If I gave you $10,000, like if you gave me $10,000 today and I handed you $360,000, how many times would you want to give me $10,000? freaking all day long.
All day
And
long.
so what really it comes down to is not whether or not the content is good and accurate. Doesn't matter. Well, it matters, but like that's not the question at hand. The question is, do you believe that you're actually going to take advantage of what you're paying for? Because if you do, you'll make money and it'll be worth it. If you don't believe in yourself, then we need to work on you believing in yourself. And guess what? There's coaches for that charge, and they'll help you believe in yourself. So it all kind of comes down to you need a coach. Now we're gonna kind of loop back to what I was talking about before, kind of what I started out with. But intellectual property is it's your own experiences, and nobody else can duplicate that. So when he starts doing blogs and he finds a way to like make $23 by just creating something, quote unquote, out of nothing, your life is not nothing. Your experience is not nothing. Your ability to go find information, gather information, even if he didn't create the information, the pure fact of him gathering it, referencing it back, and presenting it in a way that's easy to be understood and consumable for another human, that is intellectual property. And it doesn't cost anything. You're basically creating intellectual property, and you have it in you. You have intellectual property. The only question is, how do you package that intellectual property to be so that somebody else can benefit from it? That's the only question at hand. So I'm curious for you, because I've been looking into starting a blog along with this podcast. What blog sites do you find most effective as far as marketing and income and getting the most reach, most viewers from that perspective?
Well, definitely Google. Google is going to provide you with the most consistent traffic that you'll ever get. It's going to provide you with the eyeballs of the people that you want to market to. I've tried doing things such as creating brands and stuff on Facebook or on Twitter, and they're effective, but they're nowhere near as consistent as Google is. A lot of times people try to build up brands on something like Pinterest. All these are just relevant traffic sources that you can use. But in terms of when you're an entrepreneur, you have to think about, where are my failure points? If something breaks, what am I going to do now? And I don't. It's got to be by design, but for whatever reason, Google has been the most consistent thing over the past 10 to 15 years. So learning something called SEO, or search engine optimization, is probably the number one thing that you can learn right now if you are considering starting a blog and building up your brand even more, telling people your story, letting people know who you are, where you came from. Building right now, brands is everything, or another word for it is influencers. Influencers nowadays. I remember the word influencer used to be kind of a joke. Oh, he's an influencer, But nowadays, it's completely different. People are becoming influencers in the most oddball niches, and because of that, they're making tens of thousands of dollars per month. It's kind of mind-boggling when you really think about it. But when you have 4 billion people that you can market to, you only need a small percentage of them in order to make a decent income. Kevin Kelly had the saying that if you had 1,000 true fans, if you somehow convince them to spend some money where you get $100 kickback, that's $100,000 a year right there. So what's to stop you from doing that 2 or 3 times, or doing it in 2 or 3 different niches that you have an interest in? A topic that you have an interest in. You're only really limited by your own imagination at that point. But it's hard to break out of the doldrums of the 9 to 5, because you have to spend X amount of dollars or X amount of time at this job until you realize that you can create something that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that can pay you for your results rather than paying you for your time. Exchanging time for money is probably the worst way to make money, but it's also the easiest. It's the one that doesn't require much thinking. And if you can actually put together a process, build a website, build a blog, build a podcast that's speaking for you when you're asleep, then you've really created something that can pay you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think that that's kind of the main, the main driving force right now. Why I think so many people that are like, oh, this sucks so bad that we're stuck at home. I'm like, dude, you just got given especially at
A
all the people
gift.
who got unemployed. Okay, there's about 26.5 million people who've lost their jobs in America over the last 6 weeks. Okay, you might be getting depressed, thinking, "What am I going to do?" And I get it. I'm not gonna shortchange you here. If you've
Right,
got
right.
kids, it is not easy to focus in a house with kids. Okay, I'm not gonna pretend it is, or like get on your case about that. However, those kids, they're counting on you to win. They're counting on you to make it out of this. And you have been given hours, especially, I mean, all the people who are commuting for an hour into work and an hour from home. Even if you still work your 9 to 5, you can still take an extra 2 hours that you were traveling, and you can now be doing something of more value. Even if you have to go back to work, there's a little thing called a cell phone. It has a voice recorder on it. There's another site called Otter AI, OTTER.ai, and you can record something. You can drop that file into Otter AI. It will turn it to text for you. Yeah, it needs some cleaning up. Okay, it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect out there, but some cleaning up, and you could have a blog posted on your drive to and from work, and you could just make random observations about your drive to and from work. People read that stuff. People want to see a reality show. We all watch them on TV. They want to see it in real life. Why we watch the Kardashians? Who knows? It's just because they were willing to dramatize their life and put it on TV. Are you willing to have that much exposure? If you are, you could make millions of dollars. Okay. So understanding that is crucial. I think this coronavirus is actually the best gift that we could have been given at this point in our society, to help people, one, get connected with themselves, chase their hobbies, share their hobbies, and change the way that they view income, and create multi-million dollars out of this thing. Almost all major corporations in America right now were created or founded during times of economic crisis.
Correct. I agree.
That could be you. Like, do you want people talking about your company in the next 10 years? Well, right now is the perfect time. It's a breeding ground. Okay. So I just love that. As far as like where you host your blogs, right? So Google, are you hosting your blogs on Google Blogs, or are you hosting it on like Medium or Blogspace? Where are you hosting your blog?
No, well, I host my blog I self-host my blog. That doesn't necessarily mean that I have a server here at my house that I'm using. I normally will buy hosting at a particular website. The one that I like to use is called DreamHost. DreamHost is a good one. It's a good website that you can go to. They'll host your website. They'll even give you a free domain if you sign up for their managed hosting. It's just somewhere for your website to be managed. A lot of times people will try to go on blogger.com and try to get their things done there, or they'll go to some of these other WordPress.com. They work, but it's nothing better than buying your own domain and buying your own hosting and beginning to run your WordPress site on your own. You just have to make sure that you get the right training in order to make sure that you do it correctly and you don't get your website banned from Google. But yeah, typically DreamHost is one of my favorite places to go to sign up for a website.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to loop this whole conversation back in, then we're going to get into some other pertinent questions here. But this goes back to what I was saying. Sometimes you start off in one area and you end up somewhere different. Okay, and that's okay. He started off just doing blogs, and what's he doing now? He's still doing blogs. He's still doing video, but now he is selling, like he's creating niche websites and selling them for $20,000, $30,000 a pop, okay? The ones that he wants to sell off, the ones he wants to keep, he keeps, okay? But what's interesting about that is, just like Google, just like your brain, creating a pathway of, like, they know when you start searching what color to paint my house, that 2 or 3 months from now, you're probably selling your house. So they're going to start advertising to you, realtors. They're going to start, I know this from personal experience because it's happening to me right now, okay? So they already know. I didn't tell them, hey, what's the best houses to sell? But they know that from my recent search history, when I use Zillow, when I use these other things to check my home value, they know that within 2 to 3 months, I'm trying to sell my house. So now who shows up on my Facebook? Who shows up on my Google ads? Everything. Realtors or loan officers, because they know where I'm going before I tell them where I'm going, because of the statistical evidence of what somebody painting their house means. Okay? So understand that. He started out just getting coached, trying to do some blog stuff in 2015. Where he ended up, now he's selling sites. What if Google knew that when you start blogging, you want to start selling sites, right? What if you knew that when somebody Googles how to start a blog, that maybe they hadn't thought about it, but you could show up there as how to start a blog in that search, how to start a blog and get paid for it. And then now this person that was just planning on starting a blog, now they're a new client for your coaching so that they can build a multi-million-dollar business. It's that type of foreshadowing thought that you need to start thinking about. What do people really want? Market to what they really want and attach it to where they're first coming into the funnel. It's, yeah. I mean, it's incredible. I love it. I love your story. So I'm curious, I guess, who was your biggest naysayer when you started doing this and started to shift your income from your wife's income to fully this? Who was your biggest naysayer, and how did you silence them in your mind?
Yeah, the biggest naysayer, when it comes to creating your own business, when it comes to entrepreneurship in general, that typically goes against the grain of society. And not necessarily because of what you need to be doing, but it's just in terms of, it's the safe route is to get a 9-to-5 job. The safe route is to go to college and get, a huge bit of debt, and then hopefully get something in your space afterwards. So because of that, sometimes you're going to get family and friends who are going to look at you and think, okay, so you're doing what with this online thing? Oh, you're doing, you're starting a business? Oh, that's cute. So sometimes it's your people closest to you can be the ones who are the naysayers. And the best way to combat that is you need to have a positive outlook yourself, and you need to surround yourself with other people who are trying to do the exact same thing. A lot of times there's a thing that are called masterminds where you can find other people, and it's even easier nowadays because we have access to the internet. We can find a whole bunch of people on Google, on Facebook, whatever, that have the same mindset that we are, who are trying to do the same things. And if you are able to surround yourself with those people, when, if I'm having a huge marketing discussion, if I go try to tell that to my mom or my wife, they're just going to have this kind of glazed look on their eyes like, and they just kind of move on. But if you can get around people who understand the lingo, understand the nomenclature, what it is that you're trying to say, then, or people who have already been through it, they can help you out and show you what they've done when they were in the exact same situation. So the best way is to get away from the naysayers. Surround yourself with a group of people who do want to see you succeed, a group of people who are doing the same thing that you are. And sometimes you're going to have to pay money for that. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes you have to pay money for that, but it's invaluable when you're feeling down, because entrepreneurship is not easy. There's going to be times where you feel like quitting. If you're creating a blog, if you're creating a podcast, a YouTube channel, you're going to be talking to nobody, for a long time. And when I say long time, probably, a few months. And then sometimes it might take you longer to kind of figure it out. You might be, preaching to a ghost town for years, maybe a couple of years. The only way that you're going to fail, though, is if you were to stop. The more that you do it, the more that you learn your craft, you're going to realize what's working, what's not working. I haven't gotten everything right. I don't know many people who have gotten everything right. I just know what I've done and what I've tested and what didn't work and where I failed and where I am now. I think Thomas Edison, you always say I'm full of sayings, but Thomas Edison said he never failed. He just found 10,000 ways that didn't work. That's kind of what I base myself on. When people come up to me for help and they ask me about something and they say, hey, this happened to me, the only reason why I know how to fix it is because at some point I went through that myself. And so if I didn't take the chance originally to do that, then I wouldn't have had the knowledge to do so. After you start having a little bit of success, whether that success is just viewership, whether that success is making a little bit of extra money, whatever you define your success to be, make it something that's reachable, so that when you reach the goal, it lets the endorphins go off in your head that, oh wow, this worked. Let me keep doing it. And by doing that, you start to kind of push the naysayers back. So now they might have been speaking in your ear as loud as possible when you were first getting started. All of a sudden, you're starting to get some results, and then they come at you, and the endorphins kick off in your head, and now they're still speaking at the same at the same rate, but you're not hearing it as much anymore because you know what's working. So that's what I've been able to do is get to the point to where the naysayers, I don't even hear them anymore. On my YouTube channel, just as an example, people are posting all the time. Oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a scam artist, yada yada. And most of those people are people who may have tried, ran into the wrong person, training, whatever, lost some money, and now they think it's all a scam. And it's not that at all. So it's really just how you prove to yourself and move forward. You need to have a certain stick to itiveness is what I like to use to it, and just don't give up.
Yeah, to completely agree. Because the naysayers, they aren't going away. I think they will just shift, right? The people who are closest to you, once they start seeing your success, they will shift from naysayers to supporters, and people who will be like, I always supported you. I knew you could do it, right? And it's just, and there's no need to be rude to them, right? But you could know inside yourself, look, you didn't always support me. I know that I did this. And there are some people who did always support you, okay? And give them credit and be grateful for them. Show them gratitude. Help them out when they need help, right? Because they did believe in you, and their belief and their support is part of your success. And don't shortchange them for having believed in you, okay? So that's crucial. So if we wanted to get in touch with you, if we wanted some education or how to do this, where would we go to get in contact with you? What services do you offer? How do we duplicate what you've done in our own lives?
Well, you can check me out. I just launched a brand new YouTube channel where I'm going to be teaching people the exact process that I was just really telling you about. It's it's called blogbuilderpro.net. It's blogbuilderpro.net. So I'm basically bringing you from the journey of not knowing at all, what it is that of how to build a blog or anything like that. And I teach you the entire process to the point to where you can sell that website. That's the whole journey. And you can really turn that into a full-time income. You can turn that into an entire career. And the best part about it is it just takes a little bit of work, a little bit of patience, but it has a huge payoff. And I'm proof of that. I have other people who I've taught who are proof of that. So I started a YouTube channel. It's called Blog Builder Pro. Go check it out. Same thing with the website, blogbuilderpro.net. And it's just in its infancy right now, but it's going to be huge. This is what I'm going to be. It's going to be my baby, for quite a while now. And I'm looking forward to being able to teach as many people as possible. But I have a huge YouTube presence as well. I'm also named Benji's dad. If you ever check that out on YouTube, I came up with that name because that's my son's name, Benjamin. And my wife one day was like, well, why don't you call it, Benji's dad or something? And I was like, that has a nice ring to it. So I went ahead and stuck with it. So I'm Benji's dad, so awesome. Be able to check that out as well. My main sources, or my main public ones, I should say, are on YouTube. So just go to YouTube, punch in Benji's dad or Blog Builder Pro, and you're going to start seeing my face.
Awesome. Love it. And you can't get away from it because once you search it, they know that you're.
It's called retargeting.
To that. It's called retargeting. Exactly. Yes. You can't get away from him. If you listen to this podcast, you'll probably be connected to him because we're going to have his links in here. But so the next question is, during that span of where you had to make the transition, you're obviously a lot in debt. You're struggling from that perspective. How did you make that financial transition and make sure you were still afloat with your wife quitting her job and you kind of starting this out? Your first paycheck was $23. It's not like you super scored there, but it became something that was wealthy. How did you span that time period financially?
Well, I was working a regular 9-to-5 job at the time, and it was paying a decent income. I think I was getting anywhere from $55,000 to $60,000 a year from it, which it's isn't terrible. I was able to pay our bills, but I wasn't enough to pay my wife's bills and also, keep food on the table and keep the mortgage going and all of those things. So when we started planning, I realized that this was going to have to be a huge, huge step-by-step process, not only to replace her income, but to pay off a lot of the monthly things that I needed, monthly obligations that I had. So, for example, since I was already working the job, I didn't quit. Sometimes people are like, I'm just going to quit and focus on my business full time when the business isn't generating any money at all. That's the absolute wrong thing you should do. You need to continue having some type of income coming in so that you can meet your bills, obviously, take care of your family, but also to reinvest into your business. And that's what I was able to do. Take a lot of the income that I was getting from my secular job and reinvest it into something that was going to make me more money in the future. I also prioritized that money, paid off the debt. As things were starting to kind of pick up with the business, I was able to pay off every single penny of credit card debt that I had literally been carrying for close to a decade. It was pretty terrible, especially with the amount of money that I was in debt at the time, around $30,000, and then that didn't even include my school loans at the time either. So I started once I paid off all of the bad debt, all of the high interest credit cards that were, I just kept moving things from one balance transfer to another, just trying to keep the interest rates as low as possible. And I went ahead and just paid all of that off. Once all of that was paid off, I start building up a little nest egg of enough money to where if the income from the business stopped right then and there, I would still have 6 months to figure something out, a year to figure something out. Because I have a wife and kid, I wanted to make sure that I had about 9 months to a year worth of income, or of money, I should say, to survive on, just in case something tragic happened at the time. And so I built that nest egg up. And then after a while, once I had the nest egg, I started investing into a lot of other things. So I have stocks, bonds, I have Roth IRA, other little. I had to do a little bit of swing trading, not a ton, but I like to think about time in the market versus trying to time the market. So I've been doing that kind of thing, and it's really completely transformed my whole financial outset. Now I don't mind spending a few bucks on something if I know it's going to save me a ton of time and it's going to give me a ROI, or a return on my investment, sometime in the future. And that's how you make your real money. It's being able to float money here or float money there so that it can make you more money long term. So that's kind of how I was able to do that. And eventually, when I got to the point to where I started investing, I had all of my bad debt paid off. I refinanced my house to like a 3.75% interest rate. I was able to quit my job. It was one of the hardest decisions I had ever made, because that's how I was raised. My father had a, he had a shift work. So he was working 12, 16 hours a day, and he would be gone for 16, 18 hours a day. I remember there were times where I would wake up and go to school and he already left for work. And then by the time I got home, he had already come back and took a nap, and then got back up and went back to work. And then I come home and he had already left again. So sometimes I would go 2 or 3 days without even seeing my dad. But then he was off for a few days and then we got to hang out. And so, well, other than that, it's just I did not want that life. I did not want that life, especially for my son. I didn't want him to go days without seeing daddy. It was, so it had to touch me at a deep level. Of course, I started this wanting to make money, but if that was the whole deal, just wanting to make money, which I believe it was in 2015, just trying to make a few extra bucks, it didn't work, because when the bucks didn't come in, I know working is working, so I'm just going to keep going to my 9 to 5. And then when it got to the point to where my son was coming, wife wanted to quit her job, I knew I had to figure out something. So I literally devised a ridiculous plan of what I wanted to do, get our bills as low as possible. And I could tell you, my boss was shocked. I could, oh, shocked is the definition of shocked. If you look it up, you would have seen his picture right there when I told him that I was quitting my job. He had no idea it was coming. I kind of felt bad for him, but at the end of the day, the company was a Fortune 100 company. It was a huge. It's probably one of the better jobs that you can probably ever get. And my crazy self walked away from it because I had something that was much better. I had my time freedom back. I had being able to do what I want. I went on a 6 week vacation earlier this year before the pandemic started. I went on a 6 week vacation that if I tried to ask for 6 to 8 weeks off at my old job, no, I only had a 2 week vacation and that was it. So now I'm making more money. I'm making more money and have more time. It doesn't get any better than that. So the process, but it wasn't. It didn't fall in my lap, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I had to plan for it, and when I got my finances in a way to where I was able to quit my job, I bit the bullet and I did it. I took the chance, and I figured, what, a job is a job. If it doesn't work out, I'll just go get another job. Lo and behold, if they could fire me the very next day, and there's nothing else I could have done about it. Okay, go find another job anyway. So that's kind of how I was able to set everything up.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Cool. So this is our next section. We're going to get into the legacy on rapid fire. So this is like game show kind of rapid fire here. Five questions, and they're going to be 1 word, 1 sentence answers. Okay.
1 word, 1 sentence answers. Got it.
Yeah. I mean, you can give a sentence or an answer, but it's intended to be fast. So first question is, what do you believe is holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy?
Outsourcing. I need to learn better to outsource a lot of the work that I'm doing.
Amen. Me too. Okay, so that's awesome. Second question: what do you feel is your greatest accomplishment?
Putting my family and getting my wife. I think that was one of the bigger accomplishments that I've made, because everything that I've done has. Sorry, I know it's more than 1 sentence. Everything that I've done has been based on that, and that was it.
Awesome. What's the hardest thing you've ever done?
The hardest thing I ever did was probably quit a stable job that was paying for everything.
Okay. Love it. And what's one secret habit, mindset, or behavior that you feel contributes most to your success?
I would say to constantly never be the smartest person in the room.
Love it.
Always keep your mind open. I might know something 100%. I know it backwards and forwards. But if someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, I know this," that might be something I missed, and I'm gonna listen to them.
Love it. That's so cool. And what are 2 or 3 books you'd recommend to the Fuel Your Legacy audience?
Definitely, Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson was a good one. The 4-Hour Work Week. I'm using that now to try to build a more a system where where it doesn't depend on me as much. And the 4-Hour Work Week is definitely helping with that. And then in terms of mindset, I mean, the Think and Grow Rich is always a good one.
Totally. Cool. So this is my favorite part of the show. It's the last question, and we get to pretend that you've died. So not because of the coronavirus, but nonetheless, he's gone. But you get to come back, and that's 6 generations from now. So we're talking about your great grandchildren. They're sitting around a kitchen table talking about your life and what it meant, what your legacy is. If you could come back and listen in on that conversation, what would you want them to be saying about you and your life?
That I was able to show people a way to make money that didn't involve having a 9-to-5 job. One thing that I learned is that you don't need a job, you need an income. So in order to create that income, there's so many different ways that you can do it, and you need to be able to live your life. You can make $100,000 a year at a job, you make $200,000 a year at a job, you make $1 million. But if you don't have any time to enjoy that money, then what's the point?
Completely agree. Hey, guys, his links, they're going to be in the show notes here, but go check him out. Go to blogbuilderpro.net, go to his YouTube, Blog Builder Pro, go search Benji's dad on YouTube. It's never too late to start this. Obviously, once you're in his position 2 years later, and you're going to wish you started it before, right? So hindsight's always 20/20. He wishes he was more committed in 2015. In my career, I wish I was more committed in 2015. I didn't get serious about this till 2017, and I did an okay income for my business in 2017. But it wasn't until 2018 that I started investing in myself, going and getting coaches. And once I did that, my income shot up, right? So it's the same type of thing. You can be serious about it and still not make a lot of money if you're just spinning your wheels. You can spend hours of your life wasting time because you're too scared to go pay somebody and get the right coaching and mentorship that you need. So don't do that. Don't wait. Get in touch with him and find out whatever you're passionate about. Literally, you could be passionate about the color blue and write a blog about the color blue and how each color makes you feel and where you'd use it and where you like to see it. And people will read that crap. I mean, it's not crap, by the way. If that's your passion, it's not crap. But people will read it and they'll find value in it. And it's worth creating. If somebody sees value in it, it's worth creating. And that's your own intellectual property. They're your own feelings, your own heart. You don't have to use your own name if you don't want to. If you're writing something more serious, change the names, change the stories, but make sure that the concept and the principles and the feeling is the same. So I love it. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming on. And any last words?
Not really. Maybe just do something now that your future self will thank you for. We kind of talked about it earlier. Just start. Even if you're going to get it wrong, fail forward. You learn what happened that didn't work and just find a better way to do it.
Yep, absolutely love it. Well, we will catch you guys next time on Fuel Your Legacy. Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me. And if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.